Matchup number 3 this week. Actually, very interesting. House of Pain off a giant win against Wembley last week to move him to 3-3, and Gitsum with a disappointing loss against Dershval last week drops him to 3-3. Gitsum had this problem last year. He was hovering around 500 for too long. He couldn't get over the hump and stay over the hump, and then he just fell off at the end of the year. So this week is actually a very important week for both teams. We'll see who comes out of it. ESPN has House of Pain favored 114 to 87. It's a difference of 28 points. Will Gitsum make that up? I'm not too sure, but let's go further into the matchup to see if we can find a reason that he might. Gitsum, I'm sorry, House of Pain has actually been one of the more solid teams as of late. We'll see how his depth does during the bye weeks. And this week is going to be one of the ones that it might affect him. Arian Foster's going to be sitting out on the bench. Mark Sanchez will be. It doesn't really matter. He's his backup anyhow. And Pierre Garcon, which actually would be a really good play this week, mainly because Arsene Colley goes down and Dallas Clark goes down. That should really boast Garcon's numbers and also Reggie Wayne's. But, like I said, bye week, you don't get to really, that doesn't really matter this week. But on the other hand, Gitsum is hurt a little bit more this week. He's got LaDainian Tomlinson, Andre Johnson, Dustin Keller all sitting on the bench this week. That's 3 big studs for him this year, especially with how LT has been performing. So definitely the bye week, even though House of Pain is hurt a little bit, it's understandable why he's still favored against Gitsum with how unfortunate he is this week with the byes. We look at quarterbacks. Jay Cutler going against Washington, and actually he's got both quarterbacks in that matchup. Cutler against Washington, and he's got McNabb against Chicago. But this is the thing. He also has Kolb against Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, don't get me wrong, very good defense, but Kolb is playing to maybe make that quarterback controversy a little bit tougher in Philadelphia. I might be tempted to play Kolb this week. If it was me, I might be tempted to play Kolb. Not saying to do it. Definitely out of McNabb and Cutler, I'd be playing Cutler. But Cutler or Kolb this week, really, really tough decision. But as it is, I have Cutler getting 16 points this week against Washington. Joey Flacco against Buffalo. Give him 20 points, his first 20-point performance, or I think his second 20-point performance of the year. Going against Buffalo, you got to like them odds. Running backs, Rashad Mendenhall, Benjarvis Green-Ellis, and Wes Welker. Everybody thinks that Wes Welker is going to have a lot more points now with Randy Moss gone. But those underneath routes aren't going to be there as much without Randy Moss spreading the field 40 yards. I think it's actually going to hurt Wes Welker more than it helps him. He might get thrown to a lot more, but his yards will be less, his run after catch will be less because they're not going to be so concerned with the deep ball and Randy Moss getting them for a long-ass touchdown. So give me actually only 8 points for Wes Welker this week. I don't think he finds the end zone, even though it's against San Diego's defense. Benjarvis Green-Ellis out of New England. Same thing. Give me about 6, 7, 8 points for him, even though it's against San Diego's defense. Like I said, I think they're downplaying how much of an effect it might have on that offense without Randy Moss. Rashad Mendenhall against Miami. Miami does not give up that many run yards. Plus, throw into the fact that Big Ben is back second week. He's still going to want to throw it around a little bit more. I think that's going to be limited, Rashawn. I know Pittsburgh keeps saying they want to run the ball, but it's never been the case when Big Ben is there. So I don't see anything changing. Heck, it might. I might be wrong, but I haven't seen any change, and they keep saying it. So I still think that it's going to be a pass-heavy team, especially if they're going to be blowing people out like they were last week. If you look on the other side with Gitsum, he has Jamal Charles back this week against Jacksonville. Chris Johnson had actually a hard time running against Jacksonville until that powder puff touchdown at the end. But Jamal Charles, similar type of back. There was a lot of chances for Chris Johnson last week. Just one less thing. They're not going to be sitting up on him as much as they were Chris Johnson. Give me Jamal Charles getting about 16 points this week. Cedric Benson against Atlanta. I don't know where Ced has been. He's been really kind of off this year against Atlanta. Tough team. Give me under 10 points, probably around that 7 range for Cedric Benson. D'Angelo Williams against San Francisco. Frisco's defense looked good last week against Oakland, but bad other weeks. We'll see how it goes. D'Angelo Williams is definitely the back. If out of the two they were going to get any points, it'd be D'Angelo Williams. I'm going to give 12 points to D'Angelo Williams this week. If you look at receivers, get some. Driver and Knox. Knox, man, I didn't know he was so fast, but that man is fast. I can't, I told you he was a big sleeper. It turned into one. It makes me a happy camper. Against Washington's defense, I like him, and I like him a lot. Give me 14 points for Johnny Knox this week. Donald Driver against Minnesota. No touchdowns for Driver. None. Zits. 0. Only 4 points for Donald Driver this week. On the House of Pain side for receivers, Greg Jennings against Minnesota. Greg Jennings, that one long touchdown last week, 86 yards, was pretty much all his points. Jennings has still had a very disappointing year. Put me down for only 7 points for Greg Jennings this week. And Deion Branch against San Diego. Good pickup, smart pickup, especially they have depth during this bye week. Against San Diego defense, they might start paying a little bit more attention to you, but I don't see Branch having as big as a week last week. I still see him getting around 10 points. Since when does Deion Branch get 10 points in fantasy, right? But right now, I think it's going to happen. Give me Deion Branch for 10 points. Tight ends, Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez, 2 touchdowns. He had like under 20 yards receiving. Honestly, okay, I might be bitter still, but he was such a fucking touchdown whore last week. He had people with like no yards and like 2 touchdowns. It was a pain in the ass just seeing touchdown. First and goal from the 1 touchdown. First and goal from the 1 touchdown. That's all it was. But Tony Gonzalez really kind of ineffective this year, other than those 1-yard passes. Anyhow, I don't think he's going to touchdown hawk this week against the Cincinnati defense. Give me only 3 points for Tony Gonzalez. On the other side, Benjamin Watson against Cleveland. They're going to be throwing a lot. New Orleans does give up points to tight ends. Ben Watson, give me 7 points. He's not going to have a giant week, but he's going to have a decent week, especially with the young quarterbacks. They love that security blanket in the tight end. Fantasy stud in this matchup. Give me Johnny Knox. Love the guy. Love that he's making me sound smart, which is definitely hard to do. Fantasy dud. I'm actually going with Wes Welker this week. I know 7, 8 points, not really a dud, but for Wes Welker and his expectations for this week, it is dud. So dud me out there. I actually think this is going to be an upset. Get some at plus 10 points for Get Some. Matchups don't really look that way that much, but I see potential in a lot of his things. I see a lot of fall off for House of Pain this week. I'm thinking around 90 to 80 this week. Like I said, Get Some climbs back over the 500 hump. Give me 4 and 3.